What's up, everybody? Glad to see you on Sunday night. Just one more weekend. It's all you have to endure. Just one more weekend without baseball. And then it's full steam ahead on the diamond and spring practice. Also, hopefully we get an actual spring practice in a spring game for content purposes mostly. But Hey Dad and I talked about on the radio show that we think that you, the fans, deserve the spring practice, the spring game, a chance to engage with your team. Now that there's no spring portal window, there's no fear of your players getting poached because of what that looks like. So hopefully a pretty normal spring so we can talk about football in March and April and maybe early May, I suppose. But yeah, one more week without baseball. We will obviously do a lot of baseball right here on this podcast. The Winter Olympics coming up. You've got the Super Bowl. Speaking of that, I will bring this to you guys tomorrow. And speaking of the aforementioned Brian Haydad, he and I on Friday got to visit with former Ole Miss offensive lineman and current Patriot Ben Brown. Joined us to talk about the Super Bowl because he's going to play in the Super Bowl. He was awesome. Our text line, even State fans were like, what a great interview. What a great dude. And I'm excited to bring that to you guys. I will put that on this feed for you. It'll go live tomorrow night. So Monday night is when I will give that to you. So be on the lookout for that. So a lot of sports going on, but in the Ole Miss sports land, you had a basketball game. I mean, they played well, had a chance to win, had a chance to tie it at the end. Late game execution is just going to be the Achilles heel of that team, and that's why they're not going to make the tournament and why the season is otherwise a dud. But in football, Ole Miss picked up a wide receiver. So let's look at the room a little bit as a whole. They're losing a lot of production to the NFL, and then also Caden Lee off to Missouri. What does the room look like? And I'll tell you about their new player and things like that, and read some of your comments, and we'll get out of here on this Sunday night. I'm so glad that you guys are here on this edition of the podcast. My name is Michael Borky. Please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Just search Rebel Report and subscribe on your podcast feed and leave a rating and a review also right here on YouTube as well. Leave a comment, like all that good stuff. This edition is presented by Logan Smith Shelter Insurance, Home Auto Life Business. Home Auto Life Business. Logan Smith and his award-winning services will take care of you anywhere in Mississippi. He's licensed for the entire state of Mississippi. Give him a call. Even if you have auto insurance, even if you have home insurance, doesn't matter. It's worth the phone call. You might get a quote that you'll like, and I know you're going to get the services that you will like as well. 601-823-3500. 601-823-3500. Logan Smith, Shelter Insurance, Auto, Home, Life, and Business. Don't forget when you call him to tell him that it was me that sent you there. All right, so we actually knew this was coming because we have talked about this player before. He was committed to Missouri, and then I don't know what happened there, but Missouri let him out of that agreement to go to Missouri for whatever reason. Happened right after Caden Lee committed to Missouri. I don't know if that's a 1+1 thing or not, but was committed to Missouri, was let out of that commitment to Missouri, and then the way it was reported was Horatio Fields is his name. By the way, Ole Miss should have a member of the all-name team entering the 2026 season. Horatio Fields is an awesome name. But a 4-star transfer. He was at Wake Forest on the same team with Deuce Alexander, actually, at Wake Forest. What a receiver room that Dave Clawson had there at Wake Forest. One of the most underrated coaches in the country during his time at Wake Forest. I can't believe he didn't get a bigger look, but I digress. He was at Wake Forest, transferred to Auburn. Auburn had pathetic offense and even worse quarterback play. He also got hurt just a few games into the season, hit the transfer portal, and he is headed to Ole Miss. The portal, especially with Ole Miss's late, now even later, drop add date because of the ice storm, that there could be another straggler or two in the class. I think it would be beneficial for them to add a body, even another one on the offensive line if it's out there somewhere. And I think it would be beneficial to add another linebacker if it's out there somewhere for depth purposes for both of those positions. No frontline starters available anymore in the portal there. But this could possibly round out their portal class. Again, he's a four-star receiver. He's listed at 6'2", 201. He is from Georgia originally. Again, he was at Wake Forest, then transferred to Auburn, and is now at Ole Miss. I think they're done at receiver. I mean, that's the fifth receiver that they've added in the transfer portal, paired with what they have coming back. And it's a really good late pickup. I mean, there are very few guys with his talent profile available on, I guess he committed on January 31st. I know it was in the works before that, but let's just, for the sake of conversation, very few players with his talent profile available on January 31st to pick up in the transfer portal. So if you're adding a late player and it's a four-star transfer with experience at the Power 4 level, it's a great addition regardless. There's just guys like him are just not in the portal anymore. They've already found their homes, are already enrolled in school, and sure enough, Ole Miss was able to get him. So on the surface, just from that perspective, a great pickup this late in the game. But I'm fascinated about the wide receiver position for this team. There is a whole lot of potential. I think that's going to be the word that we use this offseason is potential. And look, I mean, there was a lot of that going into last season too. A lot of people talked about Dejon Stribling. It took him a little bit to kind of get going, but once he did, you saw what everybody was talking about. And then Trey Wallace was not him specifically, but Penn State's weapons were like the butt of jokes. Like people were blaming the receivers and stuff for Drew Aller's struggles, and he came to Ole Miss and was an exceptional player. I don't know exactly where he's going to go in the draft, of course, but those are two guys that had similar resumes to what Ole Miss currently has, either returning or bringing in from the portal. And look at what they became. But losing those two guys is really significant. By the end of the season, you guys know it. They were spectacular, especially in the playoffs, and losing them really hurts. But I love Deuce Alexander's game, and he is somebody that I think now with Stribling and Wallace out of the way, it's a bit of a crowded room at this point. But I love everything about Deuce Alexander's game. The sure hands, the route running, but my favorite part and what I think is his best strength is how he tracks the ball in the air and the way he is able to position his body and fight with defenders without pushing off and generating offensive pass interference. His body control is outstanding. And I think that there was a period of time this season, it's like the first half of the season, he was the best receiver on the team as Stribling and Wallace were coming on, and him returning. I mean, so much focus is on Trinidad, understandably so, Lacey, understandably so, two elite players. But I think the retention of Deuce Alexander is going to be something, and he had a lot of suitors, right, for a lot of money also. And as you can imagine, at least one other SEC school, I know of more than one, but at least one made a hard push at him. He's going to be a guy that we'll look up 9 months from now and think, man, we didn't really talk about him enough going into the 2026 season, being a player that they retained and had to fight off schools for through the coaching transition. I'm just a huge fan of his game in so many different ways, and I think the increased role is just going to shine a spotlight on how talented he really is. Big fan of his. Also returning, you guys know Caleb Cunningham. There's a lot of conversation about him this offseason. I am in wait and see mode. We will see. I know he's super talented. I know a lot of people are talking about him. And I'm not going to say that he's going to be bad either. I'm not doing that. It's just I'm in we'll see mode, whether or not Caleb Cunningham's going to take that step forward and be a guy for Ole Miss. But he's got the talent profile to do that right now. You've got a couple of 4-star true freshmen coming into, I guess maybe they both redshirted, so they'll be redshirt freshmen going into this year for depth. But returning, that's kind of what you got at wide receiver right now. There's a lot of people that are suggesting that Caleb Odom play wide receiver, and I understand why. Frankly, I think tight end's his future, and also he needs to be a lot more consistent catching the football if he's going to make that move to wide receiver anyway, or if he's going to get primary tight end 1 snaps anyway. I think he needs to stay at tight end. That is, I think, where his football future is. And again, he's got to get more consistent at catching the ball if he's going to play, all of the snaps, regardless of whether it's at wide receiver or at tight end. But again, my non-ball knower brain thinks that his future is at tight end and not wide receiver. But again, that's another we'll see situation. But in the portal class, again, there's a lot of potential here. And there's only one football to go around, but as you guys know, Trinidad Chambliss is one of his biggest strengths is spreading the ball around. That's what he does so well. You'll go look at the game logs. You have games with 8, 9 receivers catching passes. He really distributes the football. So a lot of mouths to feed in the receiver room, but that's okay, especially when you have a quarterback that doesn't hyper focus on one guy in an offense that I don't think will hyper focus on one guy either. Spread the ball around was so beneficial to this team, and you've got a quarterback that's willing to do it. But a lot of people really like Darryl Gill, the Syracuse transfer. You got 2 Syracuse transfers on this team. They had really bad quarterback play after Angeli got hurt. The quarterback there, he got hurt in week 4? Let me confirm that. But lit up Clemson, and then he got hurt in week 4. They won at Clemson, and he had thrown 2 touchdowns and 245 yards when he got hurt. But after that, quarterback play at Syracuse just kind of fell off a cliff. So it's hard to gauge, like, if you just look at the raw numbers of these 2 guys, how good they actually are. But I mean, sometimes this is an elementary explanation, but when you look at programs that want these players, when Gill was wanted by Ohio State and Oregon, when you look at especially what Ohio State has and what they put out at wide receiver, if they want the receiver that you got, that's probably a really, really good sign. So I think you can almost, maybe I'm wrong. I mean, it's January. Who knows? So much has to happen. But part of me thinks that you've got your 2 outside receivers in Alexander and Gill. Already penciled in based on, how much effort they put into Gill and how much it took to retain Deuce Alexander. The other receivers, I mean, Jonte Cook, he was at Texas. He was also at Syracuse. Had a string of really good games in the middle of the season there as well, did Cook. He's got a super high ceiling. Does Jonte Cook. He's only a 3-star transfer, I think, for a reason, though, but he was an elite high school prospect. Cam Miller's young, but he's got the Winston Watkins profile. I think they are basically a 1-for-1 trade. And he's coming off of, I mean, he's young, is Cameron Miller. So you've got a lot of time with him as well. But he's somebody that, again, I think is kind of like a 1-for-1 with Winston Watkins, but we'll see. And I don't know where the other guys fit. I don't know where Isaiah Spencer fits, the Virginia Tech transfer. I assume also outside receiver, considering his body type. I don't know where he fits. But there's potential here. You already know what you have in Deuce Alexander, but there's potential with Gill. There's potential with Fields. There's a lot of potential with Jonte Cook if he can kind of get it together. There's a lot of potential with Caleb Cunningham as well. So that's a fascinating position. There's a lot of upside. There's a lot to like about what they have, but there's very little proven at Ole Miss, which is okay because Ole Miss has proven in the past that you don't need to be proven at Ole Miss in this offense, and it's the same offense, although a different play caller, has shown that they can utilize talented receivers, and I think they've got a group of them, but it is a very fascinating position this offseason, and we'll talk about it a lot. But late, very good ad for Ole Miss at the wide receiver position. A lot of talent in that room. We'll see who can emerge. Glad you guys are here. The podcast is brought to you in part by Priority One Bank. They make you their priority every single day, literally every day. They have a great online banking platform, local loan servicing and decision-making, 16 locations scattered across the state of Mississippi, one right down the road from me. I'm going there often because I feel like they actually do what their name says, and that's make me a priority. So bank with me at Priority One Bank. Also, Advantage Business Systems for all of your Mississippi office technology needs, absms.com. Greetings from Alabama. So cold, man. It's cold here too. It was a lot colder yesterday. Whew, it was a lot colder yesterday. Hello from the Palmetto native. Good to see you, Jeff. Glad you're here. The former Wake Forest receivers and Syracuse. Yeah, 2 from Wake Forest, 2 from Syracuse. Although one of the Wake Forest guys took a stop in between, but still. Hope everyone's staying warm tonight. Had a pipe burst outside, fixed now. Yes, that saw some pictures and stuff. Oxford and North and kind of Northwest Mississippi finally starting to get some relief, although not everybody has had power restored. Obviously, the campus still closed for another week as they just get everything in order, get power lines back on, clear trees, things like that. I haven't looked at the weather yet. I hope the outlook of that is good because might rain a little bit Tuesday. But yeah, highs all in the 40s or 50s all week, and into next week you're getting into the 60s. So that's a really good thing. No crazy precipitation, nothing like that. I love to see that because that'll help a ton in the restoration efforts and stuff like that. What would you say the ceiling floor is for next year? I would say 7-5 or playoff champion contender. I think hard schedule means very high variance. Yeah, the schedule is more difficult for sure. Their floor. Okay, that's a tough question to answer because I think this roster with what they have retained, right, and adding the number 2 portal class, I don't think, barring injury, right, there's always nuance to every conversation. So I don't think 7-5 is an acceptable result for this team. That doesn't mean it's not their floor. Of course, I think that is their floor. Maybe a 6-6 floor, like worst case scenario, but there'd be no excuse for this roster with what they return, what they have at quarterback, again, barring injury, knock on wood. I don't think there's any excuse for that to be that's not a 7-5 roster at all. And that would be, to me, an inexcusable result. And it would cause you to question what you have at head coach, barring catastrophic injury and things like that. And yes, the ceiling is playoff conference championship contender. When you've got a quarterback, assuming he's back, and I think he will be, when you've got the quarterback that you have, the running back that you have, even with the losses, the defensive line that you're going to have, especially the secondary that you're going to have, possibly the best kicker in the country, there's no excuse to, or there's no reason to not think that they can't compete for everything that they just competed for. A quarterback like Trinidad Chambliss being on your team means that you are in every single game that you play. And pair that with a running game, then you've really got something. So, yeah, I think that's a pretty fair one. Wish they had Stribling and Wallace back for one more year. No kidding. Biggest portal pickup so far, Crawford. That's a great selection. I think the most important portal pickup that they have, or that they need to have, is whoever is going to play tackle. And whether one of them is Davis, who's still on the roster, or I say still on the roster, is returning to the roster. Whoever is playing left and right tackle, whether it's 2 portal guys or 1 portal guy, that is the most important portal pickup that they have. The biggest on paper, though, let's see, the biggest on paper portal pickup that I think Crawford's a really good pick for that, actually. I mean, Keaton Thomas at linebacker. We can make people roll their eyes and say Luke Farrelly, but that team was missing a Jay Crawford last year. Austin, good to see you, man. Yeah, we're doing well. I'm glad to see that you're back, and I assume this means your power's back. So Glad that you're safe and all that. The transfer linebacker from Clemson can transition to SEC play. I think he's someone the Rebs can build around. Definitely think it's an upgrade. I think it is an on-paper talent upgrade. I do. What's up, Michael? Best in the business? I wouldn't say that, but I appreciate you. I appreciate you. You say 9-3 is the floor. I disagree. I mean, with that schedule, that there's no way that's the floor. Now you could say 9-3 is the lowest acceptable result, and we can have that conversation. But the floor for this team, no way. It's lower than that. But acceptable result, different conversation. John David Baker. So the biggest question mark on offense for you, he runs the same scheme. We just need to see the play calling work on the field. Luckily, you do have a 2-year sample size, albeit at a different level, that shows you that he can do it, right? It's not like he's a first-time OC. That would be concerning. I wouldn't have supported the hire if he was a first-time OC, but him going away, branching out, doing it on his own is a very encouraging thing, and doing it well also is a really encouraging thing. And he's never coached with the weapons that he's got on this team as well. And part of me wonders, and we'll get the chance to talk to him eventually. Of course, I'll bring it here to you guys, but I would love to know how much he absorbed during the playoff run. I mean, he was heavily involved, as you could see. He was physically heavily involved. How much did he absorb, and how much did he learn through all of that? Would be a very fascinating answer. I hate my school, man. The great, glorious Dabo Sweeney has enlightened me. We should all be ashamed to associate ourselves with the Ole Miss logo. We are so rotten. How can anyone take him seriously? Austin, I know you haven't been here. We have talked about it a good bit. I said it then. I'll say it now. Those kind of stances are easy to make in late January when you can't lose a game for months. But the second you go to Baton Rouge and they beat you down, nobody's going to care if you took a stance against tampering back in January. They're going to wonder, why didn't you? So, Hayden. All right, I'll give a shout out to Hayden. That's my niece's name as well. Great name. Good to see you, Hayden. Glad you're here. 7-5 is no way acceptable, but at least 5 of those games are going to be dogfights against really good teams. And I mean, as we've talked about before, the SEC just absolutely made a really bad decision with going to 9 conference games before they got the expanded playoff. I mean, Greg Sankey just got shoved in a locker when it comes to that. But I mean, Louisville's not going to be a cakewalk in Nashville, guys. They're not. It's a Jeff Brom coach team, and they were pretty darn good this year. I mean, not like world beaters, but that's not going to be just a game that you go up there and it's like your FCS game. He's a good coach, and he's running a pretty darn good program right now. I mean, they've won 28 games in 3 years. That's going to be a difficult game to open the season. But yeah, LSU is going to have all the emotion tied up into it. You got to go to Austin. You got to go to Norman. You got to go to Gainesville. And then, I mean, Vanderbilt, who knows what they'll be without Pavia. I think that's not, the old school Vanderbilt, though. I think that's still a tough out. And you still are hosting Georgia, Auburn with the new coach. It's not easy at all. Not at all. Is Farrelly set to be on the roster next year? Yeah, no problem. No, that's no problem at all. He'll be on the roster. He will be. It would be so cool to win the SEC, as long as it didn't hurt them in the playoffs. But yes, to be able to hang a banner would mean something for that program for sure. Like Pete and coaches hitting the recruiting trail. It's what you got to do right now. That's what you got to do right now. The safeties that got impressed no CUSA route. I do like them. I think the secondary is where they did their best work between Crawford, Joseph, and Aguero. And then, I mean, you've added guys with SEC experience with Denson and then Mitchell, the state transfer, which I mean, I don't expect him to play a whole metric ton, but adding them into the room, I mean, I guess corners and safeties, maybe they use different rooms. I don't know. But with Braxton and Kite returning as well, you've got a lot to like in the back. I think that's where they did their best job, is in the back end of the defense in the transfer portal. That's the group I like the most. That and frankly, I love the running back room right now with what they've added behind Lacey to give him. I mean, he doesn't need to be here. There are certain games where, let's see, game log. Yeah, I mean, he had 24. I know the game was close, but there are games where like 18 carries against Tulane didn't need to happen, right? Every carry that he got in the Citadel game was basically unnecessary. He certainly didn't need to be playing in the second half of that game. Stuff like that. Just games where you're winning comfortably, that you can give other guys a snap or two and give him a break here or there. It would be very valuable for this team for a lot of reasons this year. So I love the running back room. What happened to the kid that signed a quarterback that went on a mission trip? Is he still coming to Ole Miss? I have no. If it's a high school recruit, I have no idea what you're talking about. Just, I'll be honest with you. I have no idea. I know I probably shouldn't have that as my answer, but that is my answer. Even though the schedule is harder, you can only see Texas and Georgia's possible losses, and you think they beat Georgia. Never beat Ole Miss and Oxford. I respect your optimism, but there are more than just 2 possible losses on this schedule. John Summerall coached Florida team. I know it's early, but I mean, you've got the big emotional LSU game, and then a week later you're in Gainesville. That is most definitely a possible loss. LSU spent, who knows how much money, but they spent the most money on their roster than anybody in college football. That's the most expensive roster in college football. That's a losable game. Without a doubt, that's a losable game. At Oklahoma's a losable game. Almost lost it a year ago. So Missouri's not going to be a joke sandwiched in between 3 road games. So this schedule's tough. Now that we have 2 years of sample size, do you see Eli Manning getting in the Hall of Fame at this point? Yes, I do. I do think he will get in. Can't wait to talk baseball. I'm excited for that one. I am excited for that one. Good offseason question. Does Dart eventually get his jersey retired? So, John, my stance on jersey retiring is that they shouldn't happen. Because the amount of players to me that deserve a recognition like that is greater than the number of jerseys you actually want to eliminate from your team being able to wear, if that makes sense. So I would do Ring of Honor. I wouldn't retire jerseys. I think Ole Miss needs a Ring of Honor. And the fact that they don't have one, and you've got an entire press box with nothing but just kind of like that ugly home of the Ole Miss Rebels on it, and there's nothing else on it, that they need to do a Ring of Honor. Why is Deuce McAllister, for example, not memorialized on your stadium? He needs to be. There's no reason for him to not be on your stadium somewhere. So I would get rid of jersey retirement altogether. It's too late now. You can't like unretire jerseys, but I think what they need to do is a Ring of Honor. You go into the Superdome and you see names literally all around the top of the Superdome. That's what needs to happen in Vaught-Hemingway Stadium. And you do something outside of it as well for them. Like at Ohio State, they have, it's called the Buckeye Grove is what it's called. But for every consensus All-American, they plant a Buckeye tree outside of the stadium for that player. Something like that in a Ring of Honor needs to happen because there are so many players like a Deuce McAllister that need to be memorialized in that stadium that currently are not. And I think that is a mistake that they need to fix. Is the SEC in trouble with Greg Sankey? At this point, we have to ask that question. He has way more power than we know about, and yet doesn't seem to properly use it. Yeah, I mean, the TV deal is uninspiring. Frankly, the fact that they just got completely shoved into a locker about this playoff deal. You're the most powerful man in college sports in a time where college sports is descending into embarrassment. And a lot of that has to do with your conference. I mean, the Kiffin thing was your conference that you just let happen. I mean, that commissioners of the past wouldn't have let it go down publicly like that. Now you've got Alabama playing a G League player. And maybe there's nothing that the commissioner can do about that. There's probably not, but there's so many things that are happening in the SEC. Football's losing its grip on the sport. You have an underwhelming television deal. You got shoved in a locker on the playoffs. Bad PR. It's just like what is the league office doing that is benefiting the league right now? I think that's a fair question. So much of the season is dependent on September 19th. No kidding. Our friend Benny says, y'all are in for a rude awakening. There's literally 0% chance we go 10-2. Benny, do you want to rewind to last offseason's predictions? And do you want us to pull up your comments about what you thought last year's team was going to be, my friend? Who gets 38? You say Perkins obviously getting 38. Give it to Luke Farrelly. Give it to Farrelly. Perkins or Will Eccles? Perkins or Eccles? He had no pushback on the whole Notre Dame auto. But yeah, forgot to mention that too. Notre Dame just getting preferential treatment, and you just allowed that to happen. Any real concern on the tampering stuff? Not for this season, no. I mean, I really, until you're given a reason to be concerned, there's no reason to be concerned. And you have not been given a reason to be concerned yet. So LSU has always spent more, and it may take Kiffin more than a season to make that team work, get them early. I do think the location on the schedule is beneficial for Ole Miss. Why, in your opinion, do so many fans get pessimistic? Like, yeah, our schedule is tougher, but man, we just saw 3/4 of this team finish third in America. They can contend. Well, of course. And part of that is just online behavior. Ask like your favorite Ole Miss fan friend what he thinks, and the internet skews negative about everything. I think that there's a there's a fan base right now that is, I mean, thrilled with the current state of the program. At least they should be. Don't even know if the offense will be successful. That was a guarantee with Kiffin. Yeah, except for in 2024 and in 2022. But especially in 2024. Offense cost them those 3 games. Exclusively offense cost them those 3 games. It was not a guarantee that you'd had. You had great offense at times, and you had great offense against bad teams. This year, it was beautiful. I mean, it's the contrast between what they did offensively in 23 and 24 is staggering, really, because they called beautiful offense in 24. And you say offense was still top in the country. Yeah, because they beat up on bad teams. Let's not do revisionist history on 2024. That was a failure, and it was a failure on the offensive side of the football. I don't care what the numbers say, because they stat padded against bad teams. You had the number 1 offense in the fourth quarter of blowout games, padding stats. That absolutely happened without a doubt, and it was obvious. And so when you look at their offensive stats in 2024, it looks like they were awesome until you actually look at their 3 losses, and they scored 1 second-half touchdown combined in their 3 losses. It was offense that failed them. Football's hard and high variance. Sometimes you win close games, sometimes you lose them. Yes, but that is what helps in that, though, what I mentioned before. Quality quarterback play, you'll be able to run the football, and you'll be very good on special teams, kicker and punter back. That will help in those close games, right? That can reduce some of your variance, but you're absolutely correct. Absolutely, you are. So, anyway, I gotta go, guys. I am exhausted. Just to tell you the truth, I gotta go to bed. I know it's like 9:30, but I am beat, and so I'm gonna hit and I'm gonna hit the hay. The Ben Brown interview, I'll bring it to you tomorrow. He was absolutely awesome. You guys, I mean, in a 10-minute interview, you guys will come away being quite proud of your alum. He was awesome. So I will bring that interview to you guys tomorrow night, and then we'll be back live on Tuesday. So really appreciate you. Talk to you guys on Tuesday, but be on the lookout for that Ben Brown interview because he was exceptional. And I will see you guys. I'll see you then.